So Google's only been making games for about 6 years, but they've been churning out a lot of stuff since then. And since their most recent game, Pangolin Love, was just so dang fun, I decided to go back and find every single Google Doodle game and play it. My method was pretty simple. I went into the Google Doodle archive and then searched a game, and picked anything that had that label. I also looked under their interactive segment, and chose anything that had what I felt were game-like elements. So we've got a lot of games to go through in a small amount of time, so let's not waste a single second further and get straight into it. I've already mentioned their first game, which is the 30th anniversary of PacMan, and it's PacMan. There's nothing really much to say. You go through the same level over and over and over again with fun little vignettes in between. And to be honest, by this point, I'm just kind of over PacMan. It's fun and it's simple, but I just get bored doing the same thing over and over and over again, and without a radical difference, there's nothing to keep my attention. But there's more than meets the eye with this little game, because if you select insert coin after starting the playing, you start a co-op mode, where one person controls Pac-Man and the other controls Mrs. Pac-Man, which I think is really, really fun. Even if you're sad and lonely and by yourself like me, it's still really fun to try to maneuver two Pac-Men at the same time. So yeah, this game is pretty good and would get my recommendation were it not for the fact that the letters are just slightly unaligned with each other. So when you go from one to the other and think you don't have to turn, you'll end up bumping your sorry ass into a wall right before a ghost eats ya. The next game is the 60th anniversary of Stanislaw Lem's first publication, and in this one you are a guy trying to finish his robot walking through this very beautiful hand-drawn landscape. Now the game isn't really that difficult, it's a series of easy but fun puzzles put one after another. But the art style and just the creativity of the whole thing makes it really, really fun. Now one thing I should mention is that there isn't any sound to this game, so if you are going to play it, I would suggest cranking on the artistic piano tunes of your choice. See this game to the end though, and you'll see a fun little ending where you finally put your robot together. And spoiler alert, your friend kills you all. The next game is Alan Turing's 100th Birthday, which is a kind of quasi-programming puzzle game as you try to put zeros and ones in the correct spot on the line. It's pretty fun, and they ramp up the difficulty at an appropriate moment. However, I would like to have had some sort of indication of how the rules worked, or some sound response to when I did something bad, because, to be honest, without any sort of sound design, this game feels really, really desolate. Up next, we have the Sports Pack 2012. 4 hardcore games for a hardcore audience, released back to back. The first one is Hurdles, and by this point, they still haven't figured out how to do any sort of sound design. The game itself is fun though. You just kind of mash the keyboard left and right and jump over hurdles as you can. My only real complaint with the thing is that you start as soon as you click the start button. And for somebody who uses their mouse and uses the arrow keys with the same hand, it gets really annoying because either I have to jump quickly from the mouse to the keyboard or I have to move my left hand over my right hand as I try to select the game. After Hurdles is Basketball, a game where you just click to shoot a basketball. You hold longer and it shoots further, and if you click right away, you're gonna throw, like, probably as well as I do, honestly. Now, I would say that the game is a little bit too simple. Like, even those arcade machines where you shoot basketballs eventually get to a difficulty where the hoop is moving back and forth. And in this case, you just move further and further back. But for 30 seconds I played it, and it was fine. Up next in the Sports Pack is the Canoe, which is just like the Hurdles, but so much more confusing. To be honest, this is a game that I would really, really like to see as a Mario Party style minigame with a bunch of people playing at the same time. Not because it would require any sort of skill, but just because it would be so infuriating, and that kind of raw passion is what we all play Mario Party for. And finally, we have Soccer. And while the other games were fast, quick, and really kind of confusing, Soccer is pretty easy. You move back and forth and you block a goal and you can go on forever. And because of that, I hated this game. It just got so boring so quickly. The other ones were quick, rapid, flash-in-the-pan style experiences, but this one could go on forever. With all these sports out of the way though, somebody's gotta clean it up, and that's where Zamboni Man comes in. That's right, our next game is Zamboni, and oh my god, there's sound. In Zamboni, it's your job to clean up the ice after everyone has selfishly used it. On the surface, everything is there in Zamboni. It's got a fun retro style, all the patterns are kind of random, which leads for good replayability, and there's a constant drip feed of new items that you can utilize. But the game just keeps going on. I mean, look at that score! The first time I saw that 6-digit score on the bottom, I was terrified at how long this game would take. But it actually turns out that at best you're going to be getting to the 4 digits. So why are those extra 2 digits there? You're a freaking Google Doodle, not some schlock on the Steam store page. You don't need to pretend you're longer than you are. While Google giveth, Google can taketh away. And while the next game does have some really fun music, Chinese New Year does not have a single sound. The game is basically Snake, except when you hit yourself you can't die. And at first I thought, man, that's gonna be easy, but no. In this game, there are so many things falling down at any point in time, some of which would look very close to each other, but don't actually have any similarity at all, that I had no idea what I was doing, and I was just rapidly going around grabbing things and avoiding things, and I don't even know what I was grabbing and avoiding, because at any point in time there was no indication of whether or not they were good or bad. I replayed this game a lot, mostly to figure out what the items were and what kind of effect they had. And I think if Google made this kind of game again, it would make a big difference if they had some sort of color outline or some sound to indicate that an item was good, bad, or neutral. Our next game isn't really a game per se, it's just really cute. In Valentine's Day and George Ferris's 154th birthday, you click the little love button in the middle and 2 Ferris wheels spin around until they pair 2 of their cabins together, each of which contains an animal. And then you just get a fun, cute little comic showcasing each of the animals' unique abilities. I just like it. It's fun. Roswell's 66th anniversary is point-and-click adventure light. In this game, you're an alien who's crashed onto Earth and has to recover each of the parts of your spaceship. I was gonna say that this was a fun, simple way to kill 5 minutes, but then I got to the last puzzle, and that's when adventure game syndrome kicked in. Suddenly, my actions had no clear impact, I didn't know how the cogs of the machine worked together, and I solved the puzzle by... I don't know how I solved the puzzle. Our next game is Tsetse Festival, and much like I butchered its name, this game butchered the idea of fun. Now that's what we call a good transition, folks. In Tsetse Festival, you use birds to create an impromptu bridge between 2 lovers. And at first, it's stupidly easy. Luckily, the game does get more complex as you go on, and I'm sure the idea behind it is that you're supposed to manage resources. If a bird stays lonely for too long, it'll just fly off. So you have to switch between grabbing any birds you can see and also searching for specific birds you can pair together. At least, that's the idea. By the time I got to the final level, the birds were so overlapped that I just had to grab any ones I could, throwing them to the side until I finally had the ability to grab the one I needed. It was less like strategically picking the best option, and more like frantically digging through a restaurant dumpster, trying to get what you need before the restaurant owner finds you and kicks you out. The next game is Google's 15th birthday, a very simplistic game where you click a button to hit a piñata. I played this one longer than I should have. The 216th anniversary of the first parachute jump, however, I never want to play again. In this game, you control whether your parachute moves left or right by doing the arrow keys. However, this has no impact on where you fall. It's not like there's anything exciting to see on the way down, and in the end, this is less of a game than the Ferris wheel comics. Doctor Who's 50th Anniversary is an isometric game about grabbing the Google letters, avoiding obstacles, and getting back to the TARDIS. Like a lot of the other games I'm talking about today, in Doctor Who there's no real lose state. Every time you get killed, you just get more time added onto your score. I actually really like this system. It makes the games a lot more approachable to a lot of people who might click on the doodle but have no previous game playing experience. I also think it's really cute how every time you die, you're replaced by the next doctor in the sequence. That's not to say the game is a walk in a park. I mean, at first it is, but by the time I got to the Weeping Angels, I didn't have any strategy. I was just rapidly clicking on the mouse until I somehow got away. Like, I'm sure there is a pattern, but I was not willing to stick around long enough to figure out what it was. If you do play this game, I would suggest using a mouse though. You could use a keyboard, but that takes a bit of getting used to, and you have to either keep pressing a button to move, or if you hold it, you have to wait for the doctor to take a step before deciding, he'll listen to you and just go the rest of the way. Meanwhile, if you see an enemy and are using mouse controls, you can just click a spot far away on the map, and the doctor will run away faster than a female character who just figured out she's gonna get written by Stephen Moffat. The 100th anniversary of the Crossword Puzzle is a crossword puzzle. That's not to say it's bad though. It's really intuitive and fun to control, and if I used crossword puzzles, this is how I would like to play them. This is not how I would like to use a Rubiks Cube though. The puzzles in Rubiks Cubes might be complex, but the device itself is really simple. Meanwhile, the amount of controls this Rubiks Cube has is it's absurd. It's ridiculous. If you really want to use a Rubiks Cube, don't play this doodle. Just borrow one from your friend who brags too much about his IQ. In the 155th anniversary of the Pony Express, it's your job to pick up letters from the ground and deliver them all to the exact same location, while avoiding hazards that'll end up throwing some from the back of your horse. It's a fun little time waster, and for the most part, you can see every letter before you get it. I say for the most part, because there's one position where you're supposed to go over a bridge, but if you go down to the very bottom, you'll actually see a row of like 5 letters. And you won't be able to predict this unless you have it memorized, and I am irrationally angry about this. H.E. Subaraya's 114th birthday. And not the actual birthday itself. From what I understand, the man was a very influential filmmaker. But the game is by far the worst one I played. It's a WarioWare style game comprised of 5-second mini games where you make a movie. However, even though the game tries to teach you what the rules of each minigame are, they're not really that apparent. And since you only have 5 seconds to get it right, you're gonna mess up. And at the end of it all, the game shows you a series of vignettes just to rub in how much you screwed up. Because the real monster of this movie isn't the one destroying buildings, it's you. Halloween Candy Cup 2015 is just so cute! While I was researching this video, I kept on coming back to this game and another one I'm going to mention later, because it's just so delightful. The gameplay itself is okay. You're automatically scrolling left to right, and you press the space bar to move your broom up and down in order to get a series of candy. You also get to choose one of 4 colored witches, each of which has their own unique characteristics. There's Glasses Spice, Spunky Spice, Cat Spice, and Book Spice. Each character comprises their own team, and whatever candy you get contributes to the team's overall score. Well, it did contribute. Yellow already won, which I don't get because red is objectively the best. I mean, look at the way she punches the air when she finishes the round. She's just got so much pep. Speaking of which, the presentation is why I really like this game, because it's just so sweet. Not only does the music sound like a straight out of Steven Universe, but the animation has little cute details to it, like the way Yellow's hat bounces every time you press the space bar. I just really like it. The cuteness continues in the opening animation of Beethoven's 245th year, in which horrible things happen to Beethoven's music, and you've got to put it back in the correct order. The gameplay is really straightforward. A small part of a Beethoven song will play, and you've just got to put the sheet music in the right order. If you don't put the music in the right order, it'll X out which sheets you got wrong, and play the incorrect song, so you can kind of hear what's not right. As someone who's been playing music since I was 6, these rules were very simple to understand. So it was easy for me. But it's very possible that someone with no musical exposure would have no idea what's going on. I legitimately have no idea. Our next game is Wilbur Scoville's 151st birthday, in which you're a cute little ice cream cone beating up adorable spicy foods by ripping off parts of your body and throwing your disembodied limbs at them. Like a lot of Google's games, the gameplay is really simple, but the presentation is so much fun that I still enjoyed it. That being said, there's a little bit too much time in between gameplay segments, as Scoville has to scarf down yet another spicy food and show you exactly what its units are. I think showing how spicy Scoville units are is very important, but it just takes a little bit too long, and I think they should have integrated that with a little animation of him freaking out every time he eats a spicy food. Or, at the very least, making his freakouts more and more exaggerated, because they just kind of look the same every time. That being said, it's still the second most fun way of learning about Scoville units, right behind watching Hot Pepper Gaming.
Okay. Okay. Alright.
Claire Rockmore's 105th birthday is less of a game and more of a tutorial for how to use your mouse to play the theremin. And since that's the case, instead of showing you gameplay, I proudly present to you my own theremin tune. The 2016 Doodle Fruit games were an amazing game. I think I wasn't able to play them. Next. So I mentioned earlier that Halloween 2015 was one of the 2 games I kept playing while researching. The second one was Halloween 2016. And how do they keep making these games so cute? Look at that game over screen. I just want to be part of the group hug. That's not to say this game is relying on cuteness alone. Halloween 2016 is probably the best of any of these games. It's got a typing of the dead mechanic, in which case you've got to draw little symbols to knock out ghosts. And while I think this mechanic would fit a tablet pretty well, it also works really, really well on a mouse and keyboard. Like, I made frantic symbols, and 95% of the time it understood exactly what I was doing. Unlike the other Doodle games, this one also has an extreme amount of depth, as you strategize which symbols to use, trying to first kill the ghost closest to you, but also making sure that you can hit as many ghosts as possible with the same swipe. And if you play the game and already know the rules, the game has an intuitive method for letting you skip the tutorial, which is something most major full-scale release games don't even have. Unlike the other Doodles, I think there's a lot of potential that could be tapped here, and I would happily pay $20 for a full-scale release. If you play any of the Doodle games, make it this one. Which isn't to say our last game is bad, because Valentine's Day 2016 is why I made this video in the first place. The game, also called Pangolin Love, is a collectathon as you go through various pangolin environments, trying to collect parts for a cake or pieces of a song. Like Halloween 2016, everything in Pangolin Love is polished to a mere sheen. The gameplay feels fun and intuitive on both a phone and a computer. The music and art assets are constantly adorable. And the game even features fun little loading messages that appear when you first boot it up, such as, pangolins are nocturnal animals. Baby pangolins travel with their mother by riding their tail. And pangolins are the most trafficked animal in the world, facing enormous threats from poachers and smugglers. Oh wait, yeah, the pangolin is a very highly trafficked animal, and this close to extinction. And while that sucks, I think the fact that Google made a game that focused on just showcasing how adorable this animal was is really, really cool. It at least exposed to me an issue that I'd never been aware of before, and now I care about it. And that, I think, is the strength of the Google Doodle. Through very simple, very approachable games, they're able to find a fun way to showcase important aspects of history that many people might not know about. That being said, these games don't have to suck. And by looking at the trends between the games I liked and the games I didn't like, I found a couple of commonalities. Good presentation and good sound very clearly help, but the first fundamental thing you need to have is clear, straightforward game controls. If I can't pick up your game and know what to do within the first 10 seconds, I'm out. And the second rule is to keep your game super short. Even if it has a very innovative concept, most people who encounter this game weren't intending to find it, and it'll have at most 3 minutes to blow on it. So if it's a level-based game, get that level in and out. And if there are multiple levels, make sure that the player can finish the first one early on, and preferably just continue from where they left off when they come back. And if it's an endless game, don't make it go on forever. Instead, put a harsh time limit, making it less about survivability and more seeing how well you can do in a short time limit. Follow those rules and you make a game that at least this individual would happily blow 30 seconds on. Now already I hear you asking, Hallmark? You mean that place that makes super expensive cards that are either kind of sweet or not really that funny? They really have a TV network? Devoted entirely to Christmas movies? Well, are they any good? And your answers to that are yes, 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 and absolutely not.